Gear up as Cash Miller and a team of accomplished guests steer you on an enlightening voyage filled with valuable tips, fresh insights, and effective strategies. Welcome to Marketing Masters, the Agency Power Show.
Welcome to Marketing Masters, the Agency Power Show. I'm your host, Cash Miller. I am a digital marketer. I'm the CEO of Titan Digital. And each episode, I try to bring on, guests with really extensive marketing backgrounds that bring a diversity of thought and such, and we get into good conversations so that we can really share with our audience information that will help your business grow. Today, I've got with me Neil DiPentino. He's with DPA Media, and he is a marketing master. He has been at it forever. Neil, introduce yourself to our audience.
Well, hey there. Thanks for having me on board. I appreciate that. I'm Neil DiPentino, as you mentioned, DPA Media. I've been in business now for 13 years. We actually had our 13th anniversary here in March. And we primarily have dealt over the years with media planning, media marketing for our clients, media buying, that type of thing. So I sit down with customers and we find out what their needs are, what their goals are, and we find a way to get that information out to the community so that they come back in and do business with them. I've got 40 years of experience in marketing, and I still am learning. I don't know everything there is to know, especially in this new digital age. I mean, we started back in the day when there was just print, started in radio, actually, back in the 80s. And I've also done print. I've done coupon. I've done just about everything there is to do in marketing, it seems like. It seems like anyway.
Yeah, so Neil is a true marketing master, and something that a lot of people, if you've ever met Neil, that don't realize that he goes back so far that he actually worked for Mr. Wonderful, from Shark Tank lore and everything before he was on the Shark Tank. So I mean, his extensive knowledge.
It was a lot of fun working for Kevin O'Leary. I worked with him for 3 years. There was a layer between he and I, so it wasn't like we sat down and had beers together. But I was around a lot when he was in the office, and all of our quarterly meetings, he was always the kind of keynote for our company, and super, super motivator. And what you see on TV is what you get. I mean, that is the real deal. No, not a put on at all. Super guy.
Yeah, but so Neil's with us today because of that extensive knowledge and such, and the kind of clients he works with. And we're going to cover a couple of subjects. Really, the one thing is because I run a digital marketing agency, and I've had the pleasure of working together with Neil on multiple projects. So what we want to cover is there's a couple of things, but Neil has extensive background knowledge when it comes to co-op programs, co-op advertising and stuff. And I wanted to be able to, there's a lot of opportunity for businesses that they're not leveraging. And, I really think that if you understand where things are, especially if you're you own a retail business, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for you. So, and then I want to take it in from, covering the co-op stuff to how you can combine like print and digital together, because it's the beauty. It's like, people like to say print's dying, but it's really evolving is what it is. And there's a lot of ways you can work with digital. So Neil, why don't you you've got a lot of co-op experience and stuff. So why don't you share, some of the things that you've done co-op and how it can really work, for advertisers. Dollars are kind of like leaving on the table.
Yeah, actually, I learned about co-op when I was in the radio business back in the 80s. And one of the things that I did is I went out into the market to try to find resources for my customers to help them gain co-op so that they could use it to pay for a portion of their ads anyway. Generally, most companies, or a lot of companies, larger companies anyway, will have some type of program, a co-op program for their retailers so that they can accrue dollars as a percentage of their purchases, and they can use those toward different types of advertising. And every company that provides co-op generally has different set of rules that you have to follow, and in order to be able to use the co-op and to claim a refund of either cash, or in a lot of cases with some of the companies I'm working with right now, they get merchandise in lieu of, or they get a credit toward the purchase of future products, with their co-op. I started probably the biggest company that I've ever worked with in terms of using co-op was the Walt Disney Company, Disney Home Video, when I was back in the video business. And I actually worked with a lot of the studios to get co-op money for my clients. Primarily, I worked with Hollywood Video, and I also worked with some blockbuster franchisees. And they usually accrued quite a bit of money with their purchases that they made in their stores, multiple locations and everything. And so my job was to go out and get those marketing funds. But a lot of companies offered also market development funds, which would be over and above a co-op type program. It's for something special, and Disney was really good at that. So if you came up with a really cool idea, like some type of an event at a store or something that was totally unique, you could approach the reps and ask them for that those market development funds. And I got to be pretty good at getting those funds for a while. That was the good part about it. The difficulty is that two things. Number one, there's a lot of rules. You have to follow those rules pretty much to the T in order to, or else they're going to decline your refund or your credit. And generally they pre-approve all that stuff. So there's usually not, too much of a problem with this on occasion. But things like using the logos properly, using certain language properly, colorization of an ad, that type of thing, the type of ad that you're running, there's a lot of different things that are involved. And again, it all comes down to the manufacturer, the people who are providing the co-op. I'm currently working with some people here locally that crew co-op. They're in the garage door business, and they crew quite a bit of co-op every year. And that product, the company they work with is actually very easy to work with, and they have a lot of different vehicles that you can use the co-op for. And everything we do has got to be pre-approved. So before I actually take an ad or whatever it is to market, I know that we're going to be approved. So, there's none of that stress about, dealing with it on the back end. And, we've used it for things like print ads. We've used it for social media ads. We've done some things on like Pandora and on some of the streaming services. We've also used it for merchandise too, in-store merchandise, things like T-shirts, hats, things that we could use to give away or that the staff can wear when they're out in the field. And the only really big thing is that, the logo for the manufacturer has to be on everything. We can't promote any other manufacturer that's in competition with them. So pretty easy peasy, yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you a couple of specific questions when you're dealing with co-op dollars. For one, take it on like an annual basis. If you were, you mentioned a garage door, provider and stuff. If, what kind of dollars can you possibly get as a from that provider, whoever the manufacturer is, on an annual basis, because it's like, if you're going to put in that work, what's it worth? And then also, what are typically the percentages, because I know with co-op dollars, it's going to be, they're not going to pick up 100%. So it's usually going to be some sort of a match. It'd be like, you put in $1, we'll put in $1. So what kind of matches have you typically seen in the past? And like what kind of annual spends can you possibly get out of some of these, these big vendors and stuff that you might be dealing with?
I haven't come across a lot of matching fund things here, at least not recently anyway. And really, it depends on how much money that the retailer or the client is spending with that particular manufacturer every year. So in the case of the garage door company, I think we've had an excess of $30,000 in co-op money that we could use, and it's money that is put aside by the manufacturer for the retailer to use. So if you don't use it, you'll lose it. It all has an expiration date on it, usually about a year in most cases. And that also depends on the manufacturer. Like when I was working with the studios, Disney, Warner, Paramount, that type of thing, generally it was the co-op was put around like a specific release, like a specific movie or video. So once that video was out in the field, it had a certain amount of time to use the funds or they were gone. It wasn't an annualized thing, but most of them are annualized. And as far as percentage, I make it a range, really 2% to maybe even up as high as 5%, depending on the manufacturer. And in some cases, like with certain things like on print, for instance. One of our manufacturers for the garage door company, they'll pay 100% for the print, but they'll only pay a smaller percentage for like Pandora or streaming services or whatever the case. So they all have their rules, and generally when you reach out to the manufacturer about co-op, they'll provide you with those rules and what co-op is available to you, how you can use it, so on and so forth.
Have you seen more of a change from, like, back in the day it was, co-oping print and stuff. And I've looked into certain co-op programs on behalf of clients and stuff over the years. And, a lot of times it was, depending on who you're dealing with, it was really old school of, hey, we're only willing to do print. Like someone when you even mentioned newspapers and stuff, I mean, it's like ridiculous. Have you seen it transitioning where more of them are willing to pick up the digital dollars? Like, say, you mentioned social media ads, you could do programmatic and stuff. Are they more willing to go there, and cover some of that budget?
Yeah, more and more so. That's the case. I mean, print is still, king in their eyes. Like, it really depends on the manufacturer. With, the company we're working with on the garage door side, they're really old manufacturer. They've been around for a really long time. So a lot of their marketing team are old school guys. They like the print. They like the newspaper. They pretty much have done away with things like yellow pages and stuff like that, which used to be big back in the day for them. More digital these days, a lot of social media. Believe it or not, there's definitely opportunities. And on the social media side, a lot of times what they do is they'll provide you with the ad copy that you need. You just plug in your logo, available here at your location, that type of thing. So they make it pretty easy for you to use it.
Okay, so let's talk that for a second too. You mentioned that they're willing to provide the ad copy and such. So have you seen where a lot of times that they will provide the assets or like pre-approved stuff? You can use these kinds of things over here, stuff along that, so that small business owners often don't have to put everything together.
The companies that I work with prefer it that way. I mean, we can still generate our own copy, and it has to be pre-approved. Generally, what they'll do is they'll have a set of whatever it is, print, digital, whatever. They'll have something that's already in the can. You just plug in your logo, that type of thing. It's all pre-approved. It's real easy peasy. You don't have to worry about, something being off and not getting reimbursed for them. Because addition. So one thing I didn't mention is that when you're using co-op, you, the retailer, you pay for the ad. And then you're reimbursed either in cash or you're reimbursed with product, whatever the program is for you. A lot of times, like, for instance, I work with some restaurants too. And so you deal with like Coke or Pepsi or somebody like that. And they'll have co-op programs where they'll provide you with, maybe a dispenser of some sort, or refrigeration of some sort, maybe cups, that type of thing that are logoed with Pepsi on them. And maybe it's promoted or cross promoted, so it has Pepsi on it along with your logo as well. So, and those are all things that are applicable.
Okay, so it's like a merchandising co-op where, so if I'm running a restaurant or whatnot, they're actually providing, co-branded things like cups, disposable stuff that they'll give you for your store, as part of the promotion stuff. Okay, I didn't. It's not something I realized they would do.
A lot of restaurants. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you. A lot of restaurants are really too small to take advantage of co-op. But if you've got multiple locations, or if you're doing a large volume of business, then you can accumulate some really nice co-op. And usually, if you're doing something with merchandise and they're merchandised, there's a lot more they'll give you than if otherwise, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. So, the people that are willing to provide the co-op dollars, typically, everything is obviously based on sales and stuff. So they're giving you a percentage. If you sell $100,000, they'll say, well, we'll give you 2% co-op or whatever. And so, there's $2,000 for you to use over the next 12 months, and everything's kind of based on your previous year's results, right?
Right, exactly. And, it's really interesting. A lot of customers that are clients that I've worked with in the past have passed on co-op because their mentality is that, well, we're promoting the brand. We're not promoting ourselves, and it's really the wrong way to look at that, because especially if you're co-branding something, it gives you the opportunity to get your message out there more often. You have to pay up front, but they pay you back in merchandise or in cash. So you're really getting all that money back. So it's really free money. And so what I always recommend to my clients is use that as a secondary resource. Pay for your own advertising, do your own thing, but also use that co-op to stretch your advertising budget further.
Yeah, well, it makes sense because, even if you are, a service provider or something, a garage door company or something else, an HVAC company, somebody that is selling product, from those companies, but direct to the public, those companies aren't selling necessarily direct. They're selling through you. So if you're co-branding the stuff, yes, you're putting their brand out there and you're putting yours at the same time. But if the customer that you do business with, if they choose a different product or something, it still helps bring them in the door. There's no guarantee. It's not necessary that just because you advertise that product doesn't mean that that's what they actually have to buy if there's a better option.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I know, like, we work with a lot of independent insurance agencies, for ourselves, and there are a few insurance carriers, big companies like Allstate and stuff, that they do some co-op advertising and such, but the role of that agent is to offer a multitude of brands, because that may not be the best quote. So, Allstate provided the co-op advertising and it brought them in, the customer that you're now talking to, and they may have said, hey, let's look at Allstate, but you could also go back and say, okay, I'm going to quote Allstate, but here, let me quote you a couple, because my job as the agent is to provide the best coverage for the best price for you. So I'm still going to provide you these other options, but it's still dollars that, helped, like Allstate's money helped bring that customer in your door, it doesn't mean you have to send them to. So that's something I always consider. Just because you're working with the co-op doesn't mean that's the brand you actually have to sell. If you think something else is a better fit, and I say garage doors, you could offer 3 or 4 different providers of actual doors, different manufacturers and such. So it's something to keep in mind if you're going to go the co-op route to help your business.
Well, all you can do you've got to try to feed the pipeline as much as you possibly can and keep it flowing consistently. Advertising in general, a lot of times it's kind of like it's like turning a spigot on and turning it off. If you use, like, say, for instance, a coupon magazine, what ends up happening is you'll see a big spike in business when that coupon initially comes out, but then it drops off. So what you have to do is you have to invest your money into it again and again and again and again. So using co-op money will help you to be able to do that. It's really about feeding the pipeline, and then your job as a retailer or business person, whatever business that you happen to be in, is trying to figure out a way is, once you get those people through your door or onto your website or whatever it is, to keep them coming back, to get them back more often, and that's more of an internal type thing.
Yeah, totally. And actually, that's a great segue into the next thing I want to cover is, because you've got some experience, especially with some of these co-op things where they've been willing to sponsor print related stuff and coupons and whatnot. And you have experience in that particular area, and then transitioning where you're working to combine it with digital, because like you just said, when you hit coupons, you kind of get that, you hit something in a mailer or whatnot, you're in the inbox, you get this kind of like rush. How do you keep that from just kind of dying off over time? And to me, like, we're working to combine, print related with digital. What are you seeing, or working, towards when you're, looking at the two together?
So I've always been big on integrated advertising. I came from, I actually, not too long ago, I was working in the print magazine business, working a lot with travel and tourism. And the one thing that they liked a lot was they wanted to use the print ads that were selling in the magazine as a branding type thing. They knew that, chances of somebody taking action on whatever they saw in a monthly magazine was not going to be all that much, not that big, but it was a way for people to actually see the brand, and then they wanted to couple that up with some kind of integrated program, whether it be an email blast or something on the website, maybe a programmatic type program of some sort, social media, a video on YouTube, those type of things. So I've always been really big on that, and we're running with I keep going back to the garage door company because they're near and dear to my heart. I've been working with them for 11 years. We we've done a lot of print advertising over the years. We have a wonderful website. You guys actually built the website for us. Thank you very much. And so we get a lot of action on that. We do display ads, we do pay-per-click ads, that type of thing online. But we recently added a geofencing program. It was a trial basis. We wanted to, kind of couple everything else that we were doing with this with this geo targeting program. And so we actually targeted areas that around the market that they were interested in. Some places with older homes, places where garage doors maybe needed to be replaced or maybe needed to be serviced, that type of thing. And so we targeted those areas that we thought would be the best locations for us. And we ran the thing for a month. It was interesting because I got the report and took it over to him. I'd only had 3 days of reports at the time that first report I received. And he was astounded. He couldn't believe the numbers that we were already getting in terms of impressions, and the phone was just ringing off the hook. And 30 days into the program, I mean, in 1 week, they did $30,000 worth of business. The second week, they did $50,000 worth of business, and they attribute all of it to the geo-targeting program that we did, coupled with everything else that we did. So they didn't say to me, and I wouldn't have recommended, let's just do this geo-targeting thing and let's just trash everything else, because that would have been ridiculous. We want to keep our SEO program going. We want to keep our pay-per-click, the whole 9 yards going. But we want to use this as kind of an add-on. So I believe that a lot of small businesses, they'll spend money on advertising just because they think that's the thing to do. I mean, not to belittle anybody by any means, but if you look at what larger companies are doing, they don't just throw out ads, they do campaigns. Yes. And they'll do television, they'll do radio, they'll do digital, they'll do a bunch of different things, but it'll all be centered around the same concept, the same promotion. And obviously small business, a lot of small businesses don't have that budget to be able to do that, but you still can find ways to do it. And we've done that. So, and it works very well.
Yeah. I mean, in this particular example, what you're doing is, you're putting together some sort of a promotion, which is, anytime anybody's ever gotten anything through the mail and stuff, whether it's some sort of a coupon book or it's a postcard or something, it's going to have some sort of offer on there. And then you're combining it because mailers themselves, of course, if you're going through a print company or whatnot, they're going to be able to pull up, addresses and zip codes and say, you can target based on the demographics. So you're going to be like, okay, I want to target in this price range for homes or income range and stuff. And you're going to hit those, the mailers. Now, if you combine it though, because you could take that same thing, and like you mentioned, you can geofence the same target zone. So they get hit with the print piece and the offer, and then you use the online ads, the display ads and such, that are targeting those same exact people. And with the two working together, you get that, that much longer effect, because, a print piece is, it's a one-time deal. It's, I get it and I either use it right away. Maybe I, throw it on the counter or I throw it away, but you get that hit of like brand awareness and what the offer is. And then you continue with the online stuff and you're targeting the exact same people. You can extend that out, that impact that it's going to have a much longer period of time. And it's not, a one and done thing. So the other thing with like print, and because you mentioned, like email marketing and stuff, it's same thing goes there. If you can, send out the print and you've got some sort of offer. Like one thing, like I've always seen businesses are really bad at is you'll do the one, kind of one and done thing, and you don't put in place a system of capturing the data. So I give you a coupon, you come in and, purchase something, but I don't do something to be able to capture that data and bring you back. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So can you speak to that a little, what you've seen? Because I know you have a lot of experience in kind of working to capture the actual data so that you can then market to those people who have tried your product. And that's why a lot of people use coupons and stuff, is to get you to try.
Sure. This is something I've been preaching for a really long time, because I do see a lot of people, a lot of businesses wasting a lot of money just doing nothing but outside advertising. I think it's necessary. People have to reach out to the community, to their markets, so they can get people to come in. But to your point, they have to figure out a way, and it's my job to help them do that, to keep those customers coming back once they're in. And a lot of business, like a restaurant, for instance, might say, well, it's our food that brings them back. People love our food. They're going to come back because of that. That's all we have to do. But the bottom line is, like, at least in our community, there's over like 400 different restaurants. So they all can't be the best places to go in town, right?
Sure.
So you have to continue, even if you're the biggest, the best, or whatever it is, you still have to continue to do whatever you possibly can to continue that outreach. But then once they're there, that customer is the customer that you want to build some loyalty with. You want to make sure that that customer comes back more and more and more and more. If your average ticket's like $15 and that customer comes in just that one time from that ad, that's the value of that customer. But if you can convert that customer into a long-term customer, the sky's the limit. You don't even know what that number could possibly be over the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years. So it's super important, I think, to keep those customers coming back in. Now, we've done it by putting together contests in stores where we capture, email addresses. We did that early on. And we still do some of that to some extent. I recently bought into a texting program, which I tried texting like probably 10 years ago. And totally, people were still using flip phones back there. They didn't even know how to text. I didn't know how to text.
Yeah.
And, the problem was it was really difficult to collect the information. And once you had the information, it's like, then what do you do with it? The dashboards that they provided, the company I was using provided, was very weak. It was very difficult. And half the time I just got frustrated and shut it down. So I gave up on texting altogether. And I was approached, several times by a number of people to do text programs. And I just, no. I found a program that I really liked, and I liked it so much I actually invested in the business. And what we do is we give people who come into the store, no matter what store it is, it could be a retailer, a restaurant, whatever. Once they come in, we give them easy access to our program. We can collect their data super easy, and once we have that in our database, then we can stay in contact with them forever. And industry standards say that, or industry says that it costs 6 to 7 more times more to acquire a new customer that does to get a repeat customer. Yeah. Repeat business is always your best business. I mean, in sales, we say, who's the best customer? Best customer is a repeat customer. So that's what we need to do, is that once we get those customers in, whether it be my program or something else, we have to figure out ways to keep them coming back in through that door and staying in contact with them, keep reminding them who we are, what we do, and why they should come.
Yeah. You talked about, with restaurants and stuff, and everybody having great food, how many restaurants can actually have, not everybody can be the best, right? Not that long ago, I'm going to give a book plug here. If you've never read it, a great business book is Hangry. It's the story of Grubhub. Came out the last couple of years and everything. And one of the points that he made, Grubhub is food delivery. So one of the book is by one of the founders of the company and such, and the guy that actually put together the original program and everything. And he started in Chicago, and he used to go out and he would talk to different businesses and the owners, and he was trying to attract restaurants, to be listed on the site and everything. And he had this one, it was a pizza joint, he kept going back again and again. The guy would always leave, every time he'd go, he couldn't make the sale, but he would leave with free pizza. But he decided, instead of trying to sell them, he wanted to learn, because the owner of that particular business had tried everything, like he had done every kind of promotion under the sun and coupons and stuff. And the Grubhub founder, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's like, okay, what, you do all of these things, but individually they contribute hardly anything to your total sales. And so, well, that's not the point. You do it to introduce the product to new people. Okay. And then if your product is good, you will bring them back. But I would add in that, okay, you introduce the product to new people. And if your product is great, yes, it will bring them back in, except that there are all those other options, and so you need to remind them, because you're not always going to be top of mind. So you should be doing something to capture their information, so that you can remind them of how good your food is. And it's not that you have to give them another deal. You gave them a deal to get in the place. Now you use things like email marketing or a programmatic campaign or something like that to remind them that you are here and that food is great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what so, and that is, a campaign, that you can run that's a lot less expensive, like I say, because you're not doing it to attract the new business, you're doing it to keep the previous,
Right.
and and generate that repeat business.
Absolutely.
So when you're combining these kinds of campaigns, like, I don't know, what would you give as like a takeaway for business owners, and the kinds of things, depending on, obviously what business they're in, what would you give as a takeaway, from what we've been talking about?
I think the one thing that comes to mind the most is that you have to understand that when a salesperson walks through their door and they're selling you print or they're selling this or that, their interest is in that particular product. Okay. They want you to invest in that product. They could care less what else you're doing. Okay. Um, you have to kind of keep that in mind. So, somebody comes in and wants to sell you a print ad in a coupon magazine, and they give you all these numbers and all that kind of thing. I mean, yeah, I'm not saying you don't do it, but you really need to take a step back and evaluate that to make sure that's going to fit with what you're looking to accomplish, what your goals are. And also you need to understand, and I've heard it myself. I have people call me all the time, like, well, you don't need this. We're the best in the business. This is what we do and everything. And it's like, well, you might be, okay, but I'm still going to couple it with this, and this. A person, I can't remember who it was, told me one time, that, if you're using some sort of media to get your message out, whether it be print, whether it be digital, whatever, and it's working for you, continue doing that until it doesn't work for you anymore. But the key thing is that you've got to keep testing other things and trying other stuff. So putting print together with a digital ad makes perfect sense to me, because to your point, you're reaching maybe a different audience. You're broadening that opportunity to get people to come in, and generally you could do it pretty inexpensively too. So, just be careful what you're buying. Really do your research. If you need help with something, I'm sure to call me. I'll be glad to help you out any way I can. And that's really the big takeaway I have, I guess.
Okay. And I would also offer up that, kind of, on what you mentioned is you don't, you have multiple, there's a lot of different types of marketing, right? And you can combine things, it's just because you see one thing working, you try something new. If you've got something already working too, it doesn't mean you stop this. You don't necessarily switch. You do look for ways to put them together, see if they can support each other. If you're a small business, but you're, think like a big business, think like how, big corporations, Coke and Pepsi and stuff, or Apple, Microsoft, how they kind of have their different campaigns intertwined. What I would mention is, for example, if you're running, social media ads and stuff, and you're driving traffic to your website through that, but then you could run retargeting ads that are actually through Google or a programmatic system or whatnot. So you're taking advantage of the traffic from one platform and then showing them ads on another platform. They say it's, a mailer that goes out, and then it's a digital ad that they get afterwards, because of maybe you used a tracking, link that you put on the mailer. Like I say, the two, you can have multiple things work together, and that's what you want to be looking at when you're putting together marketing campaigns. Think of them as campaigns and not standalone services.
I agree. And I guess one other takeaway that I would have also would be that, especially with a small business, I mean, you're limited with your budget. You're not, some behemoth that has millions and millions and millions of dollars that you could spend on advertising. So I think, a lot of people will come to you and say, well, this will help brand your business. Well, branding is a very long-term thing. It's a very expensive thing. We did a market study when I was with the learning company. Kevin O'Leary's company spent millions of dollars to find out how consumers positioned our company. And when they were asked if they'd heard of the learning company, most of the people mistaken. How can I say that word? They made the mistake of saying that we were the learning channel, which was a cable on the cable at the time. I think it still is, right?
Yeah.
But what we found out was that they almost every single one of the people that we surveyed knew our brands, or not our brands, but our products. We had things like Reader Rabbit, Oregon Trail, that type of thing, consumer products for children. So what we learned from that is branding for the learning company was like It was a waste of money. For us, we wanted to promote our products, our the things that would actually, that people actually knew, and that's what we learned. That way, we could actually get an ROI from our investment. Now, this is a $1 billion company. Think about if you're doing, your small business, you're doing $1 million or less, you have even less to spend. So the key to that is, I think, to your success is making sure that everything that you do has an ROI attached to it. Don't worry about the branding. The branding will come. Make sure you're getting people back through the door to spend money with you. It's the most important thing.
Yeah, and I would add one final thing, note, because of something you said. Associating with those brands when you're using those co-op dollars, the first part of our conversation, remember that some of those companies have spent a ton of money on their own branding, and you're associating your brand with theirs, which can be pretty powerful for you because it's some kind of an endorsement on their behalf of your business. It can be at least taken that way, whether it's explicit or not. So it's something to consider. If you're going after the co-op dollars, that can be an advantage for you. So don't think of advertising their business. Think of they're helping advertise your business.
That's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. Okay. So, that'll wrap up to today's episode. I want to thank, my co-host here is for this particular episode. It's been a great conversation. Neil DiPentino of DPA Media. How would the audience get a hold of you, Neil?
Well, they can reach me at Neal, Neal, at dpamedia.net. They can go to my website and find out more of our business. That's dpamedia.net. And my contact information is there. Would love to talk with you.
Okay. And again, I'm Cash Miller. I'm your host. I am the CEO of Titan Digital, an Inc. 5000 company. And we do everything digital marketing, so, and again, we're always happy to help, and the whole point of this show is to share valuable information from people with differing marketing backgrounds. I'm heavy on the digital side, and he's got a lot of the traditional and co-op and things that I don't cover that are extremely valuable, to businesses and such. So there is a lot of things that you can learn. So please check out, our future episodes, and I hope you got something out of this today. Thank you for joining us.